You have 24 hours before we put him down." The words hit Sarah Mitchell like a physical blow. She gripped her phone tighter, staring at the grainy photo on her screen. A German shepherd, once magnificent, now reduced to skin and bones with a tumor the size of a grapefruit protruding from his side. $500, cash only, Robert Thompson's voice crackled through the speaker. "That's my final offer. Otherwise, animal control gets called at noon tomorrow." Sarah's throat constricted. The mortgage payment was due. Her rescue shelter was already overcrowded. But those eyes in the photo, intelligent, resigned, yet somehow still holding a flicker of hope. "Where?" she heard herself ask. "Old Jameson property, North Phoenix. You coming or not?" She glanced at the clock. 11:47 a.m. 24 hours to save a life that everyone else had already written off. "The eyes are the windows to the soul," her grandmother used to say, "and this soul ain't ready to quit." I'm coming. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. The abandoned Jameson property sat like a wound on the landscape, its chain-link fence rusted and sagging. Sarah pulled her pickup truck alongside a deteriorating shed, dust swirling in the afternoon heat. Phoenix in July was merciless, and she couldn't imagine what that meant for a dog locked in a cage. Robert Thompson emerged from behind the main building, a man in his 50s who looked like life had aged him a decade more. His shirt hung loose on his frame, sweat stains marking the fabric. He didn't offer his hand in greeting, just nodded toward the back of the property. "He's over there," Robert said, his voice flat. "Been there 9 years. Sarah followed him across the cracked earth, her veterinary kit bumping against her hip. The smell hit her first. Decay, infection, and something else. Despair, maybe, if despair had a scent. Then she saw the cage. It wasn't even a proper kennel. Sheet metal formed a makeshift roof over a concrete pad, surrounded by rusted wire fencing. Inside, the German shepherd lay on his side, his breathing labored. The tumor hung from his lower abdomen like a grotesque fruit, the skin stretched an angry red where it had begun to rupture. But it was his reaction that stopped her cold. The dog's ears perked at their approach. Despite the obvious agony, he pushed himself up on trembling legs and stood at attention. His clouded eyes focused on them with an intensity that seemed impossible given his condition. "Jesus," Sarah whispered. The food bowl was black with mold, the water dish bone dry. Bloody paw prints marked the concrete where the dog had paced, wearing his pads raw. Yet he didn't growl, didn't bare his teeth. He simply stood there, swaying slightly, maintaining what looked almost like a military bearing. 500, Robert repeated. Cash, non-negotiable. Sarah knelt by the fence, extending her hand slowly. The dog's nostrils flared, and for a moment his tail gave the slightest twitch. She noticed the leather collar then, cracked with age but still bearing a tarnished badge. "What's his name?" she asked. "Don't know. Dad called him Duke or something. Look, lady, you want him or not? I got bills to pay, and animal control said they'd waive the fee if he's too sick to treat." Sarah studied the dog more closely. Beneath the neglect, she could see the noble lines of his breed, the broad chest that spoke of strength, the alert positioning despite his weakness. This wasn't just any German shepherd. The way he held himself, even now. "Your father," she said slowly. "Where is he?" Robert's jaw tightened. "Sunset Manor, Alzheimer's ward. 2 years now." He paused, then added defensively, "I kept the dog fed. Most days, anyway." Sarah stood, her decision crystallizing. She had 23 hours. The mortgage could wait another day. "I need to make some calls," she said. "I'll be back." 15 years earlier, the Phoenix Police Department K-9 training facility buzzed with activity on a crisp March morning. Officer William Thompson, 70 years old and 6 months from retirement, watched his partner Duke execute a perfect building search. The 3-year-old German Shepherd moved with precision, his black and tan coat gleaming in the morning sun. "That's my boy," William murmured, pride evident in his weathered face. Duke had been his partner for 2 years, and their bond went beyond the typical handler K-9 relationship. When Duke found the hidden training aid, he returned to William's side, sitting at perfect attention, eyes bright with accomplishment. "Outstanding work, Thompson," Captain Rodriguez called out. "You two make it look easy." William smiled, running his hand along Duke's head. "Best partner I've had in 45 years on the force." The words carried extra weight. Everyone knew William had recently lost his wife Margaret to cancer. The house that had echoed with her laughter for 4 decades now held only silence and Duke's steady presence. 3 days later, their final major case began with a routine patrol at the Phoenix Marathon. 20,000 runners filled the streets, spectators lining the route with signs and cheers. William and Duke worked the crowd, Duke's trained nose scanning for anything suspicious. "Easy day, boy," William said, though his hand rested on his service weapon. Recent intelligence suggested possible threats to large gatherings, but the morning had been peaceful. Then Duke's entire demeanor changed. His ears pricked forward, body tensing. The dog pulled toward a section of crowd near the 15-mile marker, his trained alert signal clear. "Duke's got something," William radioed, following his partner's lead. The explosion came from their left, not where Duke was heading. A small device, hidden in a trash can, sent debris flying. Screams erupted as people scattered. In the chaos, William saw her, a young girl, maybe 13, frozen in terror as a metal barrier toppled toward her. Duke didn't hesitate. The shepherd launched himself forward, 90 pounds of muscle and determination. He hit the girl sideways, knocking her clear just as the barrier crashed down where she'd been standing. The edge caught Duke's shoulder, tearing a gash, but he immediately positioned himself between the girl and the chaos, hackles raised, ready to defend. "Good boy, Duke. Good boy." William's voice was thick with emotion as he reached them. The girl clung to Duke, sobbing into his fur. Despite his injury, Duke remained still, allowing the traumatized child to hold him. "My hero," the girl whispered. "Thank you." Emily Chen, they learned later, a middle school student who'd come to cheer for her older sister. Her parents wept when they saw the security footage, watching Duke save their daughter's life. The wound on Duke's shoulder required 15 stitches, leaving a scar that William would trace with his fingers during quiet moments. The ceremony came 2 weeks later. Duke received the Medal of Valor, sitting proudly as the chief placed it around his neck. William's chest swelled with pride, but something else stirred beneath, a fierce, almost desperate need to protect this dog who'd given everything for strangers. "He's more than a partner," William told his son Robert that evening. "He's all I got left that matters." Robert, then 37 and dealing with his own grief over his mother's death, noticed the intensity in his father's voice. "Dad, he's a police dog. He knows his job." "No," William said sharply. "He's family. The only family that stays." The retirement ceremony in September should have been a celebration. 45 years of service, commendations filling a wall, fellow officers sharing stories of William's dedication. But William's attention focused solely on the moment when Duke's official vest was removed for the last time. "He's yours now," Captain Rodriguez said, "officially retired. Enjoy your time together." William's hand tightened on Duke's leash. "Count on it." The changes started small. William installed new locks on the doors, cameras around his property. "Can't be too careful," he told Robert during Sunday dinner. "Lot of people might want to hurt a police dog. Revenge, you know." Duke adapted to retirement with the same steady reliability he'd shown on the force. Morning runs became leisurely walks. Training exercises became games in the backyard. But William's behavior grew increasingly erratic. "Found someone snooping around the fence yesterday," William announced one evening, though Robert had been there and seen no one. "They're watching Duke." "I know it." The first time William forgot Robert's name, they were at Margaret's grave. Duke pressed against William's leg, whining softly. "It's okay, boy," William said. "This nice young man was just leaving." He looked at Robert with suspicious eyes. "Weren't you?" Robert's throat closed. "Dad, it's me. Robert. Your son." Confusion flickered across William's face before clearing. "Of course. Sorry, son. Just been tired lately." But Duke knew. The shepherd began compensating for William's lapses, guiding him home when he got lost on walks, barking when William left the stove on, positioning himself between William and the street when his handler forgot to look for traffic. "That dog's looking after him better than any caregiver could," Dr. Patterson observed during William's evaluation. "But Mr. Thompson's paranoia about the dog's safety is increasing. It's becoming an obsession." The construction began in winter. William hired workers to build what he called a secure kennel in the backyard. Steel posts, reinforced fencing, a concrete pad with drainage. "Temporary," he told Robert. "Just while I'm at appointments, can't risk someone taking him." Duke watched the construction with intelligent eyes, occasionally whining when William measured the dimensions. 6 feet by 10 feet. A prison disguised as protection. "He needs room to run, Dad," Robert protested. "He needs to be safe." William's voice cracked. "You don't understand. Margaret's gone. You've got your own life. Duke's all I have left. If something happened to him—" The first night William locked Duke in the kennel, the dog sat quietly, trusting his handler's judgment. William sat in a lawn chair beside the fence until dawn, talking to Duke about old cases, about Margaret, about fears he couldn't name. "Just keeping you safe, boy, that's all. Those people who want to hurt you, they can't get you in there. I won't let them. I promise." Duke's soft whine carried across the yard, but he didn't protest. Where William went, Duke followed, even into a cage. By spring, the kennel had become Duke's permanent residence. William would sit for hours beside the fence, feeding Duke by hand, brushing him through the wire, telling the same stories over and over. Duke never showed aggression, never tried to escape. He simply waited, watched, and loved the man who'd locked him away. "Love makes us do terrible things sometimes," Maggie Sullivan said when she visited. She'd known William since high school, watched him marry Margaret, raise Robert, serve Phoenix with distinction. "He thinks he's protecting that dog." "He's losing his mind," Robert said bitterly. "No," Maggie corrected gently. "He's losing his memory, but not his love. That's the last thing to go, usually. And sometimes love without memory becomes a kind of prison itself." She was right. As William's world shrank, Duke became everything. The paranoia grew worse, the locks multiplied, and Duke, trapped between loyalty and captivity, waited for his partner to remember who they'd been together. He would wait 9 years. Sarah's hands trembled as she sat in her truck, searching Phoenix PD K9 Duke on her phone. The first article made her breath catch. "Hero K9 saves girl in marathon bombing attempt." The photo showed a younger Duke, proud and strong, wearing his medal. Beside him stood Officer William Thompson, his hand resting protectively on Duke's head. She dialed her veterinary contact at Phoenix PD. "Jim, it's Sarah. I need information about a retired K9 named Duke." Handler was William Thompson. "Thompson? Jim's voice carried surprise. Haven't heard that name in years. Good cop. Alzheimer's got him last I heard. Why? I think I found Duke. The silence stretched, then, that's impossible. Duke would be, God, 14 or 15 by now. Thompson was obsessive about that dog near the end. We figured Duke passed years ago. Sarah described the collar, the badge number she'd glimpsed. Jim's sharp intake of breath confirmed her suspicions. Jesus Christ. Where? 20 minutes later, Sarah stood outside Sunset Manor Nursing Home. The reception area smelled of disinfectant and cafeteria food. A woman in her 70s sat near the window working on a crossword puzzle. Excuse me, Sarah began. I'm looking for William Thompson's room. The woman looked up, studying Sarah with sharp blue eyes. You family? No, It's about his dog. The crossword puzzle lowered slowly. Duke? You know about Duke? The woman extended her hand. Maggie Sullivan. I've known William since we were teenagers. Sit down, dear. Tell me everything. Sarah explained her discovery, watching Maggie's face cycle through shock, anger, and profound sadness. That boy, Maggie said, meaning Robert. I knew he was struggling, but this... She stood abruptly. William asks for Duke every single day. Every single day. We told him Duke was at the vet, then at training, then... We ran out of lies. Come on. They found William in the memory care unit's common room, staring out the window. At 85, he'd shrunk into himself, but Sarah could still see the officer from the newspaper photos. William, Maggie said gently, someone's here about Duke. The transformation was immediate. William's eyes focused, his body straightening. Duke? Is he okay? Where is he? I need to check his food. Did someone remember his medication? He gets anxious without his routine. Sarah knelt beside his wheelchair. Mr. Thompson, Duke is... He's waiting for you. He's been waiting. William gripped her hand with surprising strength. Waiting? But I locked. Confusion clouded his features. I had to keep him safe. They wanted to take him. I remember. Who wanted to take him? Sarah asked gently. Everyone. No one. I don't. Tears rolled down his weathered cheeks. Is he a good boy? Tell me he's still a good boy. The best, Sarah whispered. She left William with Maggie and drove to Robert's apartment. He answered the door looking haggard, a beer in hand despite it being barely 3 in the afternoon. Lady, I told you, 500 or... I know about your father, about Duke, about everything. Sarah pushed past him into the cluttered living room. Bills covered the coffee table, past due notices, medical statements. Robert collapsed onto the couch. You don't know shit. Then tell me. He laughed bitterly. Tell you? Fine. Dad started losing it 7 years ago. Mild at first. Forgot appointments, repeated stories, but he could still function, still took care of Duke. Then the paranoia started. Sarah waited while Robert collected himself. He built that kennel to protect Duke. Said people were trying to poison him, steal him, hurt him for being a cop. I tried to reason with him. Duke was miserable in that cage, but Dad would get violent if anyone tried to free him. Actually pulled his service weapon on me once. Why didn't you call someone? I did. Robert slammed his beer down. Adult Protective Services said he wasn't a danger to himself. Animal Control said as long as Duke had food and water, it wasn't abuse. Dad fed him every day, sat with him for hours. From the outside, it looked like love. It was love, Sarah said quietly. Twisted by disease, but still love. Yeah, well, love doesn't pay bills. When Dad got worse, when he started wandering, leaving the stove on, forgetting to eat, I had to make a choice. Nursing home or let him die in that house. Robert's voice cracked. You know what memory care costs? $8,000 a month. Insurance covers some. I work 2 jobs to cover the rest. Sarah studied the bills, Medicare statements, nursing home invoices, prescription costs. I tried to free Duke after Dad went to Sunset Manor, Robert continued. Opened the cage door wide. Duke wouldn't leave. Just sat there waiting, so I kept feeding him, most days, when I could afford dog food, when I remembered, when I could stand to look at him. For 7 years? 2. Dad was home for 7 years with the disease. Duke's been alone for 2. Robert met her eyes. I know I'm a monster. You think I don't know that? But that dog chose his prison, and I chose mine. $8,000 a month to keep Dad safe and confused instead of dead. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from her assistant at the rescue. Mortgage company called. Final notice. The collar, she said. Your father must have paid a fortune for quality that lasted this long. Dad spent more on Duke's gear than on his own clothes. Said a partner deserved the best. Robert stood, walking to a closet. He pulled out a box. Here, Dad's citations, photos, everything from Duke's career. Was going to sell them, but, he shrugged, couldn't. Sarah opened the box. Newspaper clippings, photos, commendations. A Duke finding lost children. Duke protecting officers. Duke being Duke, a hero in fur. Your father's pension, she said carefully. It's substantial? Was. Nursing home takes most. I get power of attorney payments for managing his affairs, $300 a month. Groceries for 2 weeks if I'm careful. And if Duke dies? Robert's laugh was ugly. Then I save $40 a month on dog food I already can't afford. Sarah pulled out her checkbook. $500, you said. Wait. Robert held up his hand. There's more you should know. Duke's not just sick, he's broken. Mentally. Still thinks he's on duty. Patrols that cage all night. Alerts to threats that aren't there. If you take him, he might never be normal. Define normal. Fair point. Robert accepted the check. There's one more thing. Dad hid stuff in that kennel, under the concrete. Said it was evidence from old cases. Probably just paranoid delusions, but... Sarah stood. I need to get Duke to a vet. Today. What about my dad? She paused at the door. What about him? Will you? Could you tell him Duke's okay? Lie if you have to. Just tell him his partner's safe? The drive back to the Jameson property felt like a funeral procession. Sarah understood now. This wasn't just about saving a dog. This was about untangling 9 years of love, loyalty, disease, and desperation. Duke still stood when she approached, though his legs shook with the effort. Hey, boy, she said softly. I met your partner. He misses you. Duke's tail moved, just once, but it was enough. She opened the cage door. Duke looked at it, then at her, then back at the opening he'd refused to use for 2 years. It's okay, Sarah said. William sent me. He wants you to go. It was a lie. But sometimes lies are the only truth that matters. Duke took one trembling step forward, then another. And for the first time in 9 years, Officer K9 Duke left his post. The clock read 4:47 p.m., 19 hours remaining. But Sarah realized the countdown had become meaningless. This wasn't about deadlines anymore. This was about redemption. The leather journal was water-damaged but readable, hidden beneath a loose floorboard in William's abandoned house. Robert had directed Sarah there after Duke's initial veterinary examination, saying she needed to understand the full truth. Dr. Anderson had stabilized Duke temporarily, buying them time while they decided on surgery. Sarah sat on William's dusty living room floor, reading by flashlight as evening fell. The first entries were coherent, dated 7 years ago. March 15th, Duke seemed anxious today. Caught someone photographing him through the fence. When I confronted them, they claimed to be a dog lover. I know better. Revenge has no statute of limitations. March 22nd, installed motion sensors. Duke approved. He understands we're partners forever. Margaret would understand. She always said Duke was special. The progression was heartbreaking. William's handwriting deteriorated along with his logic. June, they came again. Duke saw them. Good boy. Built the shelter stronger. Steel roof now. They can't drop poison from above anymore. Duke is safe. Duke is safe. Duke is safe. Duke is safe. Written over and over on one page. Sarah photographed each page, her throat tight. Near the journal's end, she found the gut punch. Duke trusts me. Won't eat from anyone else now. Good. Safe. If I forget everything else, remember, Duke eats at 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. Duke needs water. Duke is counting on me. Don't let me forget Duke. Her phone rang. Dr. Anderson. Sarah, you need to see this. Can you come back to the clinic? She found the veterinarian studying X-rays, his expression troubled. Duke lay sedated on the examination table, IV fluids running into his leg. The tumor isn't malignant, Dr. Anderson began. But look at this. He pointed to Duke's shoulder. See this scarring, this calcification pattern? From an old injury? From shrapnel, I'd guess. Metal fragments still embedded. And here, he moved to another image, his hips show severe arthritis. This dog worked through significant pain for years, but that's not what concerns me most. He pulled up dental X-rays. See this wear pattern? It's consistent with compulsive bar chewing, hours daily for years. And these grooves in his teeth? From carrying something metal repeatedly. His patrol training? No. This damage is recent, within the last 5 years. Dr. Anderson removed his glasses, cleaning them slowly. I've seen this in abandoned military dogs. They perform their duties even without handlers. This dog has been running patrol patterns in that cage, carrying something, maintaining routines despite no one giving orders. Sarah thought of William's journal. He was still on duty. For 9 years, the psychological damage might be worse than the physical. Even if we remove the tumor, save his life, he may never be a pet. He's been a soldier too long. What are you saying? I'm saying think hard before you put this dog through surgery. He's suffering. Has been for years. Sometimes the kindest thing... No. Sarah's voice was sharp. Not yet. There's something else. The owner mentioned something hidden under the kennel. Evidence, he said. Dr. Anderson sighed. The surgery would cost approximately $4,000. Recovery, another $2,000. Behavioral therapy, if it even works. I'll figure it out. She drove back to the Jameson property as night fell. The kennel looked even more depressing in the darkness. Using her phone's flashlight, she examined the concrete pad. In the corner where Duke had worn a path, she noticed something odd. The concrete was newer, a different color. Using a tire iron from her truck, she chipped at the edge. The concrete crumbled, poorly mixed. Beneath, wrapped in plastic, was a metal box. Inside, Duke's service record. Photos of him with William, and something that made her hands shake, a savings account passbook in Duke's name. For Duke's care when I'm gone, written in William's deteriorating script. Last entry showed $30,000, deposited 5 years ago. But there was more. A smaller envelope marked urgent. Inside a letter. If you're reading this, I'm gone or lost. Duke is not just a dog. He knows things, saw things. The Martinez case, the evidence they said didn't exist. Duke found it. They threatened us. That's why I had to protect him. Trust no one except Duke. He knows. He remembers. Check his collar. W.T. Sarah's mind raced. The Martinez case had been huge news 8 years ago. A city official accused of embezzlement, charges dropped for lack of evidence. William had been the investigating officer. She returned to the clinic where Duke was waking from sedation. His eyes tracked her movement, alert despite the drugs. "Hey, Duke," she said softly. "I need to check something." The collar was thick leather, custom-made. She felt along its length and found an irregularity, a small slit professionally sewn closed. Inside, a micro SD card wrapped in plastic. "Jesus," Dr. Anderson breathed. "He's been carrying evidence for 8 years?" Sarah pocketed the card. "We tell no one, not until I understand what this means." Her phone buzzed. "Robert, did you find it? Dad called me. Actually recognized my voice. Says Duke has something important. Makes no sense." She ignored the text, focusing on Duke. The dog watched her with those intelligent eyes, and she suddenly understood. William hadn't just been paranoid. Someone really had been watching, and Duke had been protecting more than just himself in that cage. "Doc," she said, "schedule the surgery, whatever it costs." "Sarah, be realistic. Even with surgery, there's money." William set aside funds for Duke's care. 30,000. Dr. Anderson's eyebrows rose. "That changes things. But the behavioral issues will be addressed. This dog isn't broken. He's been standing guard. There's a difference." As if understanding, Duke's tail moved slightly. His eyes never left Sarah's face. "There's more," Dr. Anderson said slowly. "When we were cleaning him, we found something else. Scars on his paws, deliberate cuts, all the same depth, like he'd been cut repeatedly by the same sharp edge." Sarah thought of the worn path in the cage, the compulsive patrolling. He was checking something, every day. Something sharp enough to cut, but important enough to keep checking. For 9 years? Dogs don't understand time the way we do. For Duke, he was just doing his job, waiting for his partner to return and tell him to stand down. Dr. Anderson prepared Duke for surgery, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling they were missing something. She called Maggie Sullivan. "That savings account," Maggie said after Sarah explained. "William showed it to me once, said it was Duke's pension. But there's something else. William had a safety deposit box. Gave me the key before his mind went completely. Said to give it to whoever helped Duke." They met at the bank the next morning. Inside the box, more evidence, photos, documents, a recording device, all related to the Martinez case. "William was building a case," Maggie explained. "Even after they forced him to drop it. Said Duke had found something during a routine search that proved everything. But there were threats against Robert, against Duke, so William stopped pushing. But he never stopped gathering evidence." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. This wasn't just about saving an old dog anymore. Duke had been guarding a secret that could expose corruption going back years. "What do I do?" she asked. Maggie smiled sadly. "What William would do. What Duke has been doing. The right thing. No matter the cost." Sarah's phone rang. Dr. Anderson. "We're ready to begin surgery. Duke's stable. But Sarah, I need to warn you. When he woke up, he tried to return to the cage area. He's extremely distressed about abandoning his post. This isn't going to be easy." "I know," Sarah said, looking at the evidence spread before her. "But Duke's stood watch long enough. It's time someone else took over." She had 18 hours left on Robert's deadline, but that seemed irrelevant now. Duke wasn't just a dog that needed saving. He was a witness, a guardian, a keeper of secrets, and after 9 years of faithful service, he deserved to finally stand down. Sarah sat in the veterinary clinic's waiting room, the SD card burning like a coal in her pocket. Duke had been in surgery for 2 hours. She'd spent the time piecing together fragments of the past through William's journal and the evidence from the safety deposit box. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Heard you're asking about the Martinez case. Some stones better left unturned." A chill ran down her spine. She deleted the message and tried to focus on William's journal entries from 8 years ago. September 3rd. Duke alerted on Martinez's car during routine stop. Found documents in hidden compartment. Martinez offered $50,000 to forget what we saw. Told him where he could stick his money. September 7th. Robert got followed home from work. Message received. Officially logged evidence as inconclusive. Duke knows different. Duke remembers. September 15th. They said they'd kill Duke if I testified. Made it look like an accident. Can't risk it, but keeping evidence. Someday, when it's safe. The waiting room door opened. Dr. Anderson emerged, surgical scrubs blood-stained, but his expression relieved. Duke made it through. The tumor was benign but severely infected. We cleaned out the infection, removed necrotic tissue. He's stable. Can I see him? He's still coming out of anesthesia, but Sarah... Dr. Anderson paused. While we were operating, we found something else. More scars hidden under his fur. Deliberate patterns, like someone had been marking him. In recovery, Duke lay on his side, breathing steadily. The massive tumor was gone, replaced by neat sutures. He looked smaller without it, fragile. But his eyes, when they fluttered open, remained sharp and alert. "Hey, boy," Sarah whispered. "You did good. You can rest now." Duke's response broke her heart. Despite the drugs, the pain, the exhaustion, he tried to stand. His legs buckled, but he kept trying, a low whine escaping his throat. "He's trying to return to duty," Dr. Anderson said quietly. "I've seen this in military dogs. They don't know how to stop." Sarah thought of William's deteriorating handwriting. "Duke is safe. Duke is safe. Duke is safe." Both of them trapped by duty, by love, by fear. Her phone rang. "Robert." "Is he?" "Surgery was successful. He's going to make it." Silence. Then, "My dad's having a good day. Keeps asking for Duke. Clearest he's been in months. I don't know what to tell him. Tell him Duke completed his mission. Tell him his partner did him proud." Robert's voice cracked. Can I see him?" An hour later, Robert stood outside Duke's recovery kennel, tears streaming down his face. "Jesus, what did I do to you?" Duke's tail moved slightly at the sound of a familiar voice. Even drugged, even in pain, he tracked Robert's movement. "He used to play fetch with me," Robert said. "When I was a kid, before Mom died, before Dad got sick, Duke would retrieve anything. Tennis balls, sticks, my homework once." He laughed bitterly. "Now look at him, still trying to work." Sarah pulled up a video on her phone. "Look at this, from your father's evidence." The footage showed Duke in his prime, searching a vehicle during a traffic stop. His movement precise, confident, then his alert behavior, sitting, staring at a specific spot in the car's door panel. "That's the Martinez stop," Robert breathed. "Dad told me about it. Said Duke found something big, but then everything went quiet. Your father was protecting you. And Duke." Sarah showed him the threatening messages from the journal. "Martinez had connections, made threats. Your father chose family over justice, and trapped Duke in the process." Robert knelt by the kennel. "All these years he was still guarding evidence, still on duty?" Sarah nodded. "The question is, what do we do now?" Before Robert could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Mitchell, this is Detective Raymond Flores, Phoenix PD Cold Case Unit. I understand you have information about Officer Thompson's K-9 partner?" Sarah's blood chilled. "Who told you that?" "Ma'am, I'm going to be straight with you. William Thompson was my training officer. A good man. I know he was building a case before his illness. If Duke survived, if there's evidence, I need to know. The Martinez network is still active, still hurting people. She looked at Robert, who nodded slowly. Duke's at Valley Veterinary Clinic. He just came out of surgery. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And Miss Mitchell, be careful. Martinez died in prison 2 years ago, but his people are still around. If they know Duke's alive, the line went dead. Robert paced the small room. This is what Dad was afraid of. Why he built that damn cage. He wasn't just paranoid. Duke stirred, his eyes finding Sarah. Despite everything, his gaze held trust. After 9 years of waiting, he'd chosen her to pass the torch to. Detective Flores arrived in 15 minutes, not 20. A compact man with graying temples and sharp eyes. He showed his badge, then knelt by Duke's kennel. "Hello, Duke. Remember me? Ray Flores. You found my wedding ring once during training." Duke's ears perked slightly. His tail moved. "Incredible," Flores murmured. "After all this time." He turned to Sarah. "What evidence do we have?" Sarah produced the SD card. Flores pulled out a tablet, inserted it. His face went very still as he scrolled through files. Financial records, wire transfers, names, dates. He looked up. "This is what we needed 8 years ago. Duke found the mother lode." "But Martinez is dead," Robert said. "Martinez was middle management. This shows the whole network. City officials, contractors, even some cops." Flores's jaw tightened. No wonder William was threatened. This touches people still in power. A noise outside made them all freeze. Duke, despite his condition, growled low in his throat. "Stay here," Flores said, hand moving to his weapon. He returned quickly. "Parking lot's empty, but we should move Duke. If word's out he's alive, that evidence exists." "He just had surgery," Dr. Anderson protested. "Moving him could, leaving him here could be worse." Flores made a decision. "My partner's bringing an unmarked van. We'll take Duke to a safe house. Full medical support." "I'm coming with him," Sarah said. "So am I," Robert added. "I've failed him for 2 years. Not anymore." As they prepared Duke for transport, Sarah noticed something. Despite the drugs, the pain, the chaos, Duke's eyes remained focused on one thing, the SD card in Flores's hand. Even now, even after everything, he was watching the evidence he'd guarded for nearly a decade. "Good boy," she whispered. "Such a good boy. You did your job. You can let go now." But Duke couldn't, or wouldn't. As they loaded him into the van, he fought the sedation, trying to stay alert. 9 years of conditioning couldn't be undone with words. During the drive, Flores filled them in. "After William retired, we tried to reopen the Martinez case. Hit wall after wall. Witnesses disappeared. Evidence went missing. We knew William had something, but he was already showing signs of dementia. Wouldn't talk to us. Kept saying Duke knew everything." "He was trying to protect Duke," Robert said. "And me. They threatened to make it look like an accident." "They would have," Flores confirmed. 2 other officers who investigated Martinez died in accidents. William was smart to back off, but he never gave up. Neither did Duke. The safe house was a nondescript ranch home in Scottsdale. Medical equipment was already set up. Duke was transferred gently, but he still tried to rise, to patrol, to guard. "This is going to be the hard part," Flores said. "The physical healing is one thing, but teaching him to stand down? After 9 years?" Sarah sat beside Duke's bed, her hand on his head. "What if we don't? What if we let him finish his mission first?" "What do you mean?" "Look at him. He's not going to rest until he knows the evidence is safe, until the job is done." She met Flores's eyes. "Use the evidence. Make the arrests. Let Duke see it through." Flores considered. That could take weeks. Months even. Then we have weeks or months. Duke waited 9 years. We can wait a little longer. Robert spoke up. My father's having more clear moments. If Duke could see him, if Dad could tell him to stand down. Worth a try, Flores agreed. But first, we secure this evidence. A Duke held the line for 9 years. Time for us to take over. As if understanding, Duke's rigid posture relaxed slightly. His eyes, still watchful, showed a flicker of something that might have been relief. The mission wasn't over. But for the first time in 9 years, Duke wasn't carrying it alone. The safe house became a command center over the next 72 hours. Detective Flores had assembled a small team of trusted officers, each one carefully vetted. Duke, despite his surgical sutures and pain medication, insisted on positioning himself where he could watch all entrances. Even lying down, he maintained his post. Sarah never left his side. She'd called her rescue, explaining she had a family emergency. It wasn't really a lie. Duke had become family the moment she'd seen him standing at attention in that squalid cage, refusing to surrender despite everything. He's pushing himself too hard, Dr. Anderson warned during his 3rd visit. The surgical site is healing well, but his blood work shows severe stress markers. His body is eating itself trying to maintain this vigilance. Sarah stroked Duke's head. His eyes tracked every person who entered, every sound from outside. He doesn't know how to stop. Then we need to finish this quickly, Flores said from his laptop. The evidence Duke protected is solid. We've already made 2 arrests, city contractor named Paulson and a records clerk who'd been destroying documents. Small fish, but they're talking. Robert arrived with breakfast and updates from his father. Dad was lucid for almost an hour yesterday. Kept saying Duke's name. The nurses said he was trying to get out of bed, saying he needed to feed his partner. Duke's ears perked at William's name. Despite everything, the bond remained. We've been thinking about this wrong, Sarah said suddenly. We keep trying to get Duke to stand down, to rest. But what if that's not what he needs? What if he needs to complete his mission? The mission is complete, Flores argued. We have the evidence. No. Duke's mission was never just about evidence. It was about protecting William, serving with his partner. That's why he won't rest. He's waiting for William to tell him the job is done. The room fell silent. Duke watched them all, his breathing labored but his eyes sharp. You want to bring William here? Dr. Anderson asked. A dementia patient? To a safe house during an active investigation? I want to bring Duke to William, Sarah corrected. One last time, let them complete their watch together. Flores shook his head. The risk? His phone buzzed. He answered, his face going pale. When? You're sure? He hung up. Paulson's dead. Apparent suicide in his cell. Left a note naming names. This just got bigger. Duke struggled to his feet despite the pain, instinctively responding to the tension in the room. Sarah and Robert rushed to steady him. Easy, boy. Easy. But Duke wouldn't be calmed. He limped to the window, staring out with laser focus. 30 seconds later, a car drove slowly past. Duke's low growl filled the room. He knew, Flores breathed. He knew before we heard the engine. 9 years of hypervigilance, Sarah said. He's memorized every pattern, every threat. The car passed without incident, but Duke remained at the window, trembling with effort. Blood seeped through his bandages. This is killing him, Robert said, his voice thick. We're watching him die on duty. Sarah made a decision. Detective Flores, I'm taking Duke to see William today. You can come with us or not, but he's going. You could be followed, attacked. These people have killed before. Then protect us. That's your job. Duke's done his. 2 hours later, a small convoy pulled into Sunset Manor's parking lot. Flores had arranged for discreet security. Duke, sedated but alert, lay on a special gurney. He'd allowed them to move him only after Sarah showed him the evidence cards being locked in Flores's safe. Maggie Sullivan met them at the entrance. "William's in his room. He's been agitated all morning asking for Duke." Somehow, he knows. The journey to the memory care unit was slow. Duke, despite the pain medication, tried to walk on his own. Finally, Robert simply picked him up, carrying the 90-pound dog like he had as a child. Duke didn't protest, perhaps recognizing the arms that had once thrown tennis balls for him. Outside William's room, they heard his voice, thin but insistent. "Duke needs his dinner. 5 p.m. Don't forget." "Duke is counting on me." Sarah knocked gently. "Mr. Thompson, I brought someone to see you." William sat in his wheelchair by the window, looking out at nothing. But when Robert carried Duke in, when that distinctive scent reached him, William's whole body changed. "Duke?" His voice broke. "Duke, is that you, boy?" Robert placed Duke gently on the bed. Duke, who hadn't made a sound through surgery, through pain, through fear, whimpered. He dragged himself across the blanket until his head rested in William's lap. "My boy," William whispered, his gnarled hands finding Duke's ears. "My good, good boy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I got confused. I didn't mean—" Duke's tail moved weakly. His eyes, fixed on William's face, held nothing but love. "I need to tell you something," William said, and for a moment his voice was clear, authoritative, the voice of Officer Thompson. "Duke, you've done your duty, above and beyond. The evidence is safe. The bad people can't hurt anyone anymore. Mission complete, partner. Mission complete." Duke's whole body shuddered. 9 years of tension, of vigilance, of unwavering duty began to release. He pressed closer to William, a soft whine escaping. "Stand down, Duke," William continued, tears streaming down his face. "Your watch is over. You can rest now. That's an order." For the first time in 9 years, Duke fully relaxed. His eyes closed, his breathing deepened. He was just a dog again, lying with his person, safe and loved. Sarah couldn't see through her tears. Robert stood with his hand on his father's shoulder. Even Flores wiped his eyes. "Is he?" Maggie asked softly. "He's sleeping," Dr. Anderson confirmed, checking Duke's vitals. "Really sleeping. Not vigilance masquerading as rest. Actual sleep." William's clarity lasted another few minutes. He told Duke stories, his voice growing softer. "Remember when you found that lost boy, 3 years old, wandered into the desert? You tracked him 4 miles. Good boy. Remember our last shift? You knew I was forgetting things. Kept bringing me back to the car when I got confused. Always looking out for me." Duke slept through it all, occasionally sighing contentedly when William's hand found a favorite spot. "I failed you," William said finally. "Got scared, got sick, locked you up to keep you safe and made you a prisoner. Can you forgive me, partner?" Duke's tail wagged once in his sleep. They stayed for 2 hours. William eventually dozed off, his hand still resting on Duke's head. When it was time to leave, Duke woke instantly, but the manic vigilance was gone. He looked at William, then at Sarah, and seemed to understand. "We'll bring him back," Sarah promised. "Every day, if you want." Duke licked William's hand once, then allowed Robert to carry him out. In the van, he curled up against Sarah and slept again. "Incredible," Dr. Anderson murmured. "His heart rate is normal. Stress hormones dropping. It's like he's a different dog." "Same dog," Flores corrected. "Just off duty for the first time in 9 years." Back at the safe house, the investigation had accelerated. The names Paulson provided led to more arrests. A network that had stolen millions in city funds, that had destroyed lives and threatened anyone who got close. Duke did this, Flores told his team. 9 years of standing guard, and this dog preserved evidence that's going to clean up our city. Duke, for his part, was relearning how to be a dog. He ate without checking for poison first. He slept without positioning himself to watch doors. When a tennis ball rolled past, forgotten by some previous safe-house occupant, he looked at it with confusion, as if remembering something from another life. "He'll need time," Sarah said, watching him. "Maybe a lot of time, but he's already different. Softer." "What happens when this is over?" Robert asked. "Where does he go?" Sarah looked at him. "Wherever he wants. He's earned the right to choose." That night, Duke made his choice. He climbed carefully onto the couch where Sarah was sleeping and curled up against her, his head on her chest. For the first time in 9 years, he slept through the night without patrolling. The mission wasn't complete yet. There would be trials, testimony, justice to be served. But Duke had passed the torch. Others would finish what he'd guarded so faithfully. His only job now was to heal, to remember what it meant to be loved without duty, to be a dog without a badge. And in his dreams, he ran with William again, young and strong and free, chasing tennis balls under an endless Arizona sky. The call came at dawn. Sarah woke to find Duke already alert, his head raised, watching her phone vibrate on the nightstand. Old habits died hard even after 3 days of recovery. "Sarah?" Robert's voice was strained. "It's Dad. The nursing home called. He's had a major stroke. They don't think he has long." Duke was already struggling to his feet, somehow knowing. Sarah didn't question it. After everything she'd witnessed, Duke's connection to William transcended normal understanding. "We're on our way," she said. Detective Flores met them at Sunset Manor. "I'll clear the way. Make sure you're not followed." The investigation had exploded over the past 72 hours. 12 arrests so far, with more coming. The evidence Duke had protected was dismantling a corruption network that reached into City Hall. They found William in the ICU, machines maintaining what life remained. His eyes were closed, his breathing mechanical. Maggie sat beside him, holding his hand. "He was asking for Duke right before," she said softly. "Clear as day. Said he needed to tell him something important." Dr. Anderson had accompanied them, worried about Duke's surgical site. But Duke showed no signs of pain as Robert carried him to William's bedside. The old German shepherd stretched out beside his partner, his head finding its familiar place under William's hand. And then, something extraordinary happened. William's eyes fluttered open, not with the confusion of dementia, but with clarity Sarah had never seen before. "Duke," he whispered. "My boy." You waited. Duke's tail thumped against the hospital bed. Once, twice. A conversation without words. "I need to tell you something," William continued, his voice barely audible. "About Emily, the girl you saved. She matters, Duke. Remember her. She matters." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Flores. "Need to tell you something about the Chen family." Not over phone, but William wasn't finished. "The evidence, under the cage. You knew. Smart boy. Always smarter than me." His hand found Duke's ear, fingers trembling. "I wrote it down, everything, for when I couldn't remember anymore, but you remembered for both of us." Duke pressed closer, a soft whine escaping. William smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face. "Best partner I ever had. 45 years on the force, and you were the best. Even when I failed you. Even when I—" His voice cracked. "The cage. God, Duke. I'm sorry about the cage. I was so scared of losing you. Lost everything else. Couldn't lose you too." "He forgives you," Sarah said softly. "Look at him. There's nothing but love there." William's eyes found hers. "You're the one who saved him. Duke chose you." His gaze sharpened. "Be careful. They're not done. The girl, Emily. They'll come for her when they realize." The machines began alarming. Nurses rushed in, but William gripped Duke's fur with surprising strength. "One more minute," he gasped. "Please, one more minute with my partner." The nurses, seeing Duke's calm presence, nodded and stepped back. William's breathing grew labored, but his eyes remained clear, fixed on Duke. "Remember your oath, boy. Protect and serve. But now you protect her, the one who saved you. Promise me, Duke. Promise me you'll keep her safe." Duke lifted his head, looking directly into William's eyes. Then, in a gesture Sarah had seen only in training videos, Duke placed his paw over William's heart. The signal for, "I understand, I accept." William smiled. "Good boy. Best boy. My Duke." The words faded. The machines sang their electronic dirge. But William's hand remained on Duke's head, and Duke didn't move. Not when the nurses came. Not when they pronounced time of death. Not until Robert gently lifted his father's hand and whispered, "It's okay, Duke. He's at peace." Only then did Duke allow himself to be carried from the room. In the hallway he collapsed against Sarah, his whole body shaking with grief even dogs could feel. Flores was waiting in the lobby, his expression grim. "We need to talk, privately." They convened in a family conference room. Duke lay at Sarah's feet, his eyes closed but ears alert. "Emily Chen," Flores began, "the girl Duke saved 15 years ago. Her family's corporation was one of Martinez's biggest victims. They lost millions in the construction fraud. Her father committed suicide over it." Sarah felt cold. "And Emily Chen inherited everything when she turned 21. She's been quietly funding investigations into the Martinez network for years. She's the reason we were able to move so fast on Duke's evidence. She had pieces. Duke had the rest. Together. They're going to come after her," Robert said flatly. "They already have. 2 attempts in the last year. Both failed." Flores looked at Duke. William knew. Somehow, even with the dementia, he knew Emily was important. That's why he kept saying Duke needed to protect the girl. "Where is she now?" Sarah asked. "Protected custody, but she wants to meet Duke. Says she owes him her life twice over. Once for saving her at the marathon, once for protecting the evidence that's bringing justice for her father." Duke's eyes opened at Emily's name. After 9 years, he still remembered. "There's more," Flores continued. "William left something else." "Maggie?" Maggie produced an envelope. "He gave me this 2 years ago. Said to open it only if Duke survived and William didn't." Inside, a handwritten note in William's shaky script. "Duke's mission isn't over. The girl he saved will finish what we started, but she needs protection. Duke knows her scent, knows her heart. If I'm gone, Duke transfers to her. It's what partners do. We pass the torch. Take care of my boy. He's got work left to do. William Thompson, badge 4782. He can barely walk," Dr. Anderson protested. "Duke needs months of recovery, not another mission." But Duke was already struggling to his feet, facing the door, waiting. "Not yet, boy," Sarah said. "First, we say goodbye properly." The funeral was 3 days later, full police honors. The mayor spoke. The chief placed a flag on the casket. But the moment that broke, everyone came when Duke, wearing his restored K9 vest, limped to the casket and performed his final alert. Sitting at perfect attention, he held the position for 60 seconds exactly. Then he touched his nose to the casket once and limped back to Sarah's side. In the crowd, Sarah spotted a young woman with Asian features surrounded by bodyguards, Emily Chen. When their eyes met, Emily nodded once, a promise, a recognition. After the service, Flores approached. 2 more arrests this morning. The evidence is holding up. Duke did it. He actually did it. William did it, Sarah corrected. Duke just held the line. That night in Sarah's apartment, Duke slept fitfully. His paws twitched, soft whines escaping, dreaming of chases, of duty, of William. "It's okay," Sarah whispered, stroking his fur. "You're safe. You're home." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. William's letter weighed on her mind. Duke's mission wasn't over. The girl he'd saved 15 years ago still needed protection. And Duke, even broken and healing, was still a guardian at heart. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Miss Mitchell? This is Emily Chen. I know it's late, but I was hoping. Could I meet him? Duke? My therapist says it might help with everything. And I have something that belonged to Officer Thompson. Something I think Duke should have." Sarah looked at Duke, who was suddenly awake and alert despite the late hour. "Tomorrow," she said. "Come to my rescue center tomorrow." After she hung up, Duke settled back down, but his eyes remained open. Watching, waiting. Even in grief, even in pain, he was still Officer K9 Duke, and his watch wasn't over yet. The morning sun cast long shadows across Sarah's second chance animal rescue as a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Duke stood at the window, his tail beginning to wag before Sarah even heard the engine. His surgical site had healed remarkably over the past 2 weeks, though he still moved carefully. Emily Chen stepped out, flanked by 2 bodyguards who stayed by the vehicle. She was 28 now, successful, polished, but Sarah could see the 13-year-old girl from the news footage in her eyes. Duke's reaction was immediate, a soft whine, his whole body trembling with recognition. When Sarah opened the door, he walked forward slowly, dignified, despite his excitement. "Duke?" Emily's voice broke. She knelt, tears streaming. "It's really you." Duke pressed his graying muzzle into her hands, tail wagging with more energy than Sarah had seen since his rescue. Emily buried her face in his fur, sobbing. 15 years, she whispered. "I've looked for you for 15 years. They told me you died. They told me Officer Thompson retired and you—" She looked up at Sarah. "How?" Sarah told her everything, the cage, the evidence, William's declining years, Duke's unwavering duty. Emily listened, her hand never leaving Duke's head. "My father died because of what Duke found," Emily said finally. "The evidence proved the construction fraud, but by then, Dad had already taken his life. He thought he'd failed us, failed the company." She straightened. "I've spent 7 years and millions trying to finish what your investigation started. Duke gave us the missing pieces." She reached into her bag, pulling out a worn leather leash. This was Officer Thompson's. From his rookie days, the hospital gave it to me after he saved me, said he'd want me to have something. She clipped it to Duke's collar. "I think he'd want Duke to have it back." Duke sniffed the leather, his tail wagging harder. William's scent, faint but there. "There's something else," Emily continued. "I've been getting threats, serious ones. The arrests have certain people panicked. My security team is good, but—" She looked at Duke. "Officer Thompson wrote to me once, years ago, said if anything happened to him, Duke would know what to do. I didn't understand then." Duke had positioned himself between Emily and the door, scanning the parking lot. Even reunited with the girl he'd saved, he was working. "He can't protect you," Sarah said gently. "He's 14 years old, recovering from surgery." A car backfired outside. Duke moved faster than seemed possible, placing himself in front of Emily, a warning growl rumbling from his chest. The bodyguards tensed, hands moving to weapons, but it was just a delivery truck. "He's still got it," Emily murmured. "The instinct." "The spirit's willing," Sarah agreed. "But the body—" "I'm not asking him to be my guard dog," Emily said. "I have people for that. But Duke represents something. My father believed in justice. Officer Thompson believed in justice. Duke protected the evidence that's finally bringing it. I want to help Duke now, whatever he needs." Over the next hour, Emily shared her story. The terror of the marathon bombing, the years of survivor's guilt, her father's death, the discovery that Duke and Officer Thompson had tried to expose the truth years before anyone listened. "I fund a foundation now," she said, "for retired police dogs, for officers with Alzheimer's. I named it after my father, but—" She looked at Duke. "Maybe it should be the Thompson-Duke Foundation." Duke had relaxed as they talked, even accepting treats from Emily. But he never fully let his guard down, occasionally checking the windows and doors. "There's something else you should know," Detective Flores said, arriving with news. "We made another arrest this morning. Big one. City Councilman Porter." "He's talking, trying to cut a deal." He looked at Emily. "He mentioned your name, and Duke's. They know Duke survived, know he was the key to preserving the evidence." Duke's ears perked at the tension in Flores's voice. "Are you saying Duke's in danger?" Sarah asked. "I'm saying certain people have long memories and deep pockets. Duke's a symbol now, the dog who brought down a criminal empire." Flores knelt beside Duke. "You're famous, boy, a hero twice over." That afternoon, the rescue filled with unexpected visitors. Fellow officers who'd served with William, K-9 handlers with their partners, Maggie Sullivan with residents from the nursing home. Word had spread. Duke had survived. Duke had completed his mission. "He looks good," Officer Patricia Reeves said, her own German Shepherd sitting beside her. "Thin but good. Thompson would be proud." "Thompson is proud," Maggie corrected. "Wherever he is, he knows his boy finished the job." As the sun set, Sarah found herself alone with Duke and Emily. The younger woman had stayed all day, helping with the rescue animals, getting to know the dog who'd shaped her life. "I have a proposition," Emily said. "Duke can't work anymore, can't protect anyone physically. But he doesn't need to. Let me fund his care, completely, veterinary, therapy, whatever he needs. In exchange—" She paused. "Let him help me heal, too. Let me visit. Let him know his mission meant something." Sarah looked at Duke, who was watching Emily with those intelligent eyes. "What do you think, boy? Want a part-time job as a therapy dog?" Duke's tail wagged, decision made. The weeks that followed brought remarkable changes. Duke's physical therapy progressed faster than expected. His nightmares decreased. He learned to play again, chasing tennis balls with the enthusiasm of a puppy, though only for short bursts. Emily visited 3 times a week, bringing other survivors of the Martinez Network's crimes. Duke seemed to understand his new role, offering comfort to those seeking closure. The dog who'd guarded evidence for 9 years now guarded hearts, healing from trauma. The trials began. 23 individuals faced charges ranging from fraud to murder. Duke's evidence proved crucial in every case. Photos of him circulated widely, the hero K-9 who'd never given up. One evening, 6 months after his rescue, Sarah woke to find Duke gone from his bed. Panic shot through her until she found him in the living room, standing at the window. "What is it, boy?" Duke's tail wagged, but his attention remained fixed outside. A car sat across the street, engine running. Duke's low growl filled the room. Sarah called 911. The car fled before police arrived, but they found evidence of surveillance equipment. Someone was still watching. "They're getting desperate," Flores explained. "The trials are going badly for them. Duke's become a symbol they want to eliminate." But Duke had survived 9 years in a cage. A few desperate criminals didn't concern him. He simply adjusted his routine, checking windows more frequently, positioning himself strategically during Emily's visits. The breakthrough came during Emily's therapy dog session. A new visitor, claiming to be a victim, felt wrong to Duke. He positioned himself between them and Emily, refusing to move despite commands. Security found the knife during their search. The victim was connected to Porter's organization, sent for one last desperate attempt. "Duke knew," Emily said, shaking. "He just knew." "He always knows," Sarah replied. "That's who he is." A year after his rescue, Duke received an official commendation from the Phoenix Police Department. Too old and tired to attend the ceremony, he watched from home as the chief read the citation via video call. "For exceptional service, unwavering loyalty, and preserving justice against all odds, the Phoenix Police Department hereby awards Officer K-9 Duke the Medal of Honor, retired." Duke's tail wagged at the familiar words of praise. That night, Sarah found him in his favorite spot, William's old uniform piece beneath his paw. He was sleeping peacefully, no longer patrolling, no longer on guard, just an old dog who'd earned his rest. "Sweet dreams, Duke," she whispered. "Your watch is over. You're home." Duke's tail thumped once against the floor. Content, complete. The hero who'd waited 9 years for justice had finally found peace. To our cherished listeners who've journeyed with Duke through these 9 years of unwavering loyalty, this story speaks to the sacred bonds we forge in life, bonds that transcend time, illness, and even death itself. Like many of you who've stood by loved ones through Alzheimer's, who've known the weight of promises kept when the world forgets, Duke's vigil reminds us that love doesn't require words or perfect memories. It simply requires presence. William's confusion couldn't diminish Duke's devotion, just as your dedication to those you love hasn't wavered through life's cruelest tests. In an age where loyalty seems fleeting, Duke proves that some souls, human and animal alike, still understand the meaning of "till death do us part." His story echoes the faithful service many of you gave to your country, your families, your communities. You are the generation that knows. Sometimes love means standing guard in the darkness, waiting for dawn. We'd love to hear from you. What beloved pet showed you the meaning of unconditional love? Have you witnessed loyalty that defied all logic, like Duke's 9-year vigil? Please share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter and inspire others walking similar paths.